the Abscondo Podcast.
Hi, this is Mark. Welcome to the Abscondo Podcast. I want to talk this week about human relationships. And a little background before I kind of dive into that. You know, what I'm seeing, and I'm not alone in saying this, but it seems to a lot of people that there's a really massive spiritual awakening going on around the world. Millions of people, or more even than that, are actively pursuing teachings from multiple religious traditions, or open-minded, and going across these traditions and going into the ancient and the new teachings, and really interested in finding present moment awareness, enlightenment, love, escaping the ego. But what always seems to happen, at least from my perspective, and this is just what I'm seeing, is that what is the ultimate purpose of becoming spiritually enlightened? It's one thing to go into nature, to go take a hike through the forest and look at the trees and listen to the birds and look at the flowers and get yourself into a really good place. It's a great practice, for example, if you're looking to come to presence. But then what happens when you leave the forest? You get back in the car and you go to the grocery store, and there's people beeping at you, and there's people grumpy and budging in front of you. And then you go home and you check your email, and you have some nasty comments from your customers or your boss or whoever. And so as soon as you come into contact with other people, you're regardless of how what kind of a great place you may have gotten yourself into spiritually, the biggest challenge happens when we come into contact with other people. And so what ends up happening, I think, is that a lot of people who really do wish to find inner peace, they want to escape the ego. They want to find this state of bliss and health and abundance. And so what we do is we try to isolate ourselves. We try to protect ourselves from the influence of other people. The problem with that is that as soon as we do that, first of all, it's impossible. We can't exist in isolation. We do need to have relationships and dependencies, which that's where abundance comes from. And so as soon as we find that great state of being, which is still relatively rare in the world, but as I said, an increasing number of people are getting there. And then as soon as we do, we kind of would rather stay in this place of isolation. Or we're very careful about who we allow into our lives. We talk about toxic people and about removing them from your life, and narcissists and all these things. And so there's this urge to try to protect our state of being, to pretend that it's so sacred that it's not open, that we don't just open ourselves to other people who maybe aren't as enlightened as us. And I think this is holding us back. I'm interested in what is called the consciousness revolution. I'm interested in the state of normal becoming the state of spiritual awakening, a state of no ego, a state of love, unconditional acceptance of what is. And we're very close to having this be the reality. But I think what's still holding us back is that we're allowing our spiritual practices, our faiths, to remain within this private realm. We read the books we love. We maybe go to some kind of form of worship, and we may have a relationship with one person where we can practice. We might have a yoga studio where we practice. We don't talk too much about what's really going on. And so what I believe has to happen for the consciousness revolution to occur, which again is this idea that the nastiness, the attack, the judgments, the blame and shame, the rejection, the non-acceptance, this normal state of human interaction, which is what is normal today in a world that can be considered insane. And I hope that we find a way to laugh at the insanity, because ultimately either it gets you down or you have to laugh at it. And I try to laugh at it, but I'd rather overcome it. And so I think the only way that we're going to get to the next level is to learn to maintain the state of present moment awareness, inner body awareness, unconditional love, no stress, no fear, even as we are interacting with other people. And to go even a step further, to be able to stay in this state of service to other people. So I asked earlier in this podcast, what is the purpose of any kind of spiritual awakening? And I firmly believe that our purpose as human beings is not just, can we, as an individual, be okay sometimes where we can go to the beach and relax, or we can go for a walk in the forest, or we can do a meditation and we can feel good. That's important and that's wonderful. But that's only a starting point. And the next step has to be, now how do I take this good state and turn it into a state of what might be called karma yoga, which is service to others without any expectation of what you're going to receive. A knowing that giving is the same act as receiving, and giving is, the ultimate form of giving is creativity. So how do we create in a way that provides abundance for others, that serves the needs of others, in a way that accepts others for how they are, unconditionally, in a way that doesn't judge others or blame or shame? And how do we maintain that state of inner peace? And if we can figure this out on a larger scale, we have the foundation for the conscious revolution, and this changes the world. And if we don't get to this point of changing the world through consciousness becoming the new normal, when I say consciousness, what I mean is no ego. It's all about ego. And I'm not saying that the word ego is difficult for people, because it's not understood by the mind. The mind wants to say, well, what do you mean I have an ego? I'm not judging that you have an ego. I'm saying that it's a conditioned mind. And by conditioned, I mean that since childhood and all the way through our lives, the world has been conditioning us by trying to get us to think a certain way and behave a certain way. And that's the voice in the head. Sounds like your voice. It either uses the voice, the word I or you. Even sometimes the voice in the head can be saying, you really have to get it together. You really have to work harder. You have to, or I have to. And that's the voice in the head, and it sounds like your own voice, but it's not you. That's the ego. So the ultimate, in my view, the ultimate spiritual awakening would be, you start with the meditation and the teachings and the knowing about your true identity as being or presence or love. And if you're not there and this doesn't make sense, well, then that's the place to start. There is you have to go through the teachings and understand that we are not our minds, we are not our bodies, we are spirit and soul, which is consciousness. It's the realm of what some call God, the unmanifested. And that consciousness flows through all things. It wants to come into the world of form. Through you, through trees, through flowers, through everything that exists, consciousness is trying to gain in the realm of form. And we as humans, what we're meant to do is communicate with each other. Okay? We're not meant to live in isolation and add no value. What's the purpose of our life if it's just to be normal and just to try to fit into an egoic society where we're told what to do? I'm not saying we shouldn't go to work and we shouldn't take care of our kids and earn an income, and we shouldn't send them to school and teach them to behave in church or whatever it may be. That's important, obviously, but it's not the meaning of life, because if you get all that right, That's great, but at the end of your life, what was the point if you didn't do anything to advance consciousness, to advance, what is our individual life purpose? And it's going to be awfully hard to define some kind of life purpose that doesn't involve how you relate to other people. See, so we're designed to advance consciousness in the physical realm by connecting with other people, and yet we're afraid to connect with other people. So we're not really mature completely in this. And if we can get to this stage, I believe this is the next level of spirituality, karma yoga, a real focus on total service to others, total openness, unconditional acceptance with others in a way that doesn't send you spiraling into that egoic state. That doesn't activate your need to be better or to be right or to argue or to be frustrated or to say, I can't believe he said that, or how do I get this from this person, or he's not going to pay me, I don't trust him. These are all the things that our egos are standing in the way of human relationships. And this is especially true in dating. My goodness. It's a disaster. The people out there, so quick to judge any difference of thought, difference of appearance, difference in age. You live in the wrong neighborhood, you drive the wrong car, you have the wrong job, you say the wrong thing. And this is why you see so many people who are single, just indefinitely single, because they're not able to connect with other people. And this only can happen, two egos really cannot merge into a union. Two egos are always going to be kind of battling each other, against each other. Egos are attracted to other egos, to larger, bigger egos. But you're never going to find harmony, and you're never going to find a constructive relationship within the ego. So the way to actually connect with other people is to look past ego and see that person's soul, their spirit, their heart, which is exactly the same in all of us. We all want the same things, even though it may take different forms. And so what I'm realizing is that my life purpose is to help lead people in this direction, and I'm doing that through this project called I Am by Infobeing, which is a mobile app. This is something that I've conceived of in 2002 and have been trying to do it ever since. It's not easy to pull together the funding to create a social media app, and I'm happy to say that it's now available on Android and iOS. And bear with me, this is a strange turn, I think, in this conversation, but you'll get where I'm going in a minute. So the idea behind I Am by Infobeing, and you can find it on the App Store or in Google Play. Please do download it and give it a try, because what we're doing is this experiment where we're creating a community of people whose intention is to do what I'm just discussing, to come to a place where there's a bunch of people, good people, who are trying to take their good nature, their loving nature, their spiritual side, whatever you want to call it, and we're trying to contribute, we're trying to learn to exist in this way of acceptance and togetherness and union with other people. So it's a community we're building that is very different from places like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and whatever else, because there it's a lot about ego. It's a lot about projecting your, how cool you look and where you've been and what you have and who you're with. And it's not really about coming together. It's more about projecting ego. So there's a lot of negativity, there's a lot of debate. Whenever you have a situation where there's threads of conversations and there's comments and people debating and commenting, there's going to be a little bit of playing to the crowd, and people tend to be a little bit nasty. And this is why you see on message boards and all over the internet, people are kind of nasty and negative to each other. And that's by design. So this is a social media community. This experiment we're putting together is a way that there really is no viable way to project ego in this I Am by Infobeing community. It's not about, there's only one profile picture, and aside from that, it's about what you are doing. It's about who you are and what you're doing and what you want. Okay? It's about service to others. It's about connecting and matching people If you want to buy something and I have that to offer, we're going to match. If you want to meet a man who's interested in talking about unconditional love, and I'm interested in meeting a woman who wants the same thing, we're going to meet each other. We're going to practice that together. So the intention is to meet new people who are interested in engaging in this way with other people. And the community is just starting out, and I think one of the fundamental groups of people who we're going to be inviting into this community are business people. And I was just coming to realize how fortunate and grateful I am to have so many wonderful people in my life who I met through business. Men and women around the world who are in a business, that's a great practice of putting your ego aside and serving. And the better you can do that, and the more you can stay cool and collected as you do, and unemotional, the more successful you are. Ultimately, the value you create for other people and organizations comes back to you and what you get paid. And I think that the business community, and that's a broad term, obviously including all kinds of trades and professions and leaders and executives and everybody else, and independent contractors and everybody else who's trying to make a living through some form of business. Sometimes we're overlooked. We're overlooked as people who have actually accomplished a great deal, not just in terms of successful, as a resume filled with great jobs and great experiences, but in the way we interact with people and the relationships that we have with people and how we treat people. And I would like to, and I'm going to be reaching out to a massive number of these business leaders and asking them to help to take part in this community, because they have a lot to offer in helping to spread this teaching of self-sufficiency, of how to serve and treat people, how not to attack and how to manipulate and all these things. And I'm not talking about, of course there's all kinds of scandals in business and there's all kinds of, questionable characters out there. I'm not talking about them. They're going to be repelled from this because ultimately this is a charitable mission. But it's a lot of fun because if we can learn to be centered in our spirituality, and by the way, the app has daily teachings I put out. I'm also going to be asking for the help of the community to share your teachings. It's not just about me. It's about us. It's not about me. It's about you and making this yours. And this is what I'm called to do. I don't know why. And believe me, I would rather not have been given this job. And, I'm not, really a religious person, but I have learned to say a short prayer to God or to the universe or whatever, just bring it on. Let consciousness work through me to do what I'm supposed to do. And this is what I'm supposed to do. And so I just wanted to use this podcast to kind of talk about this as my thinking, because this is quite an experiment. I think we get stuck in this idea of just, reading books, talking about our ideas and our faiths and our spirituality. But to go to the next level, we're going to have to put it to practice. And that's what this community is here to learn how to do it together on this app with each other, but then take that throughout our lives and do that everywhere. So yeah, just if you have a few moments, I would absolutely love for you to download the app I Am by InfoBeing. Create a few statements of what you're trying to do in your life, who you're trying to meet, basically, is what you're trying to do here. Saying, I'm meeting a woman or someone to discuss unconditional love or whatever it may be, or I am looking to teach English in Italy. But the point is, we're there to serve each other and to help each other. And this is what this community is all about. And this is going to change the world. Even if it's just a few of us, even if it's just a couple thousand of us here, I hope it grows to hundreds of millions, and that's the goal. But we got to start somewhere, and I need anyone who feels called to take part in this experiment. We can't do it without you. So thank you for listening to the Abscondo Podcast. I'll leave you with a song as usual. And this week I'm trying something different, which is to put a video out along with the podcast. So you can check out YouTube, and you'll see this podcast there as a video as well. Thank you once again for joining me on the Abscondo Podcast.
changes. Lives of lies. When culture's made of plastic instead of precious lives. And do we even wonder why we feel like this? Come on, we see it on the adverts, baby, and just go by it. Do you hear the thunder? It's loud and clear. These cold walls of fear still keep us warm in here. Nothing changes. This cold spine is the property of strangers who wouldn't give a dime. And do we even wonder how they stole our whip for some cheap corporate media entertainment? We just gave it. Do you hear the thunder? It's loud and clear. These cold walls of fear still keep us warm in here. I hear a storm out there, so let's just live in fear.